Hello and welcome to Meta Sparks. This channel is full of deep dives into the lyrics of Ron and Russell Mael of Sparks, and that's because every song they do is a gem, but also every song is chock full of cool hidden meanings. There are always profound ideas hidden just below the surface, and they're like puzzles that are waiting to be solved. I always look out for one thing, and that is where Sparks could be commenting on themselves. I look for what a Sparks song says about Sparks, and every single track has an answer to that question if you look at it a particular way. So what I'm saying is that everything is meta, but that's not always obvious. However, luckily today's song is The Rhythm Thief, and that's a song that speaks volumes about that stage in the band's career. This is the opening track of Lil Beethoven, which came in 2002. It was seen rightly as a bold artistic statement, and its success revived Sparks' career. It introduced them to a new generation of fans and solidified their status as icons. It proved that the band was still capable of reinventing themselves in a highly original way, undeterred by musical trends or commercial expectations. It's often cited as one of the most important records in Sparks' extensive back catalogue, illustrating that willingness to push pop's boundaries. So without further ado, let's look for what The Rhythm Thief says about Sparks.
Rhythm thief, say goodbye to the beat. I am the rhythm thief, auf Wiedersehen to the beat.
They say goodbye to the beat just as Sparks' music changes to do just that. They'd spent the 90s in synth-pop mode, so heavy with beats, particularly on Balls, the predecessor to Lil Beethoven.
Balls, all you need are balls to succeed on balls. All you need are balls. All you need are balls to succeed on balls. All you need are.
So with that, Sparks are saying goodbye to that era of the band. And within all of the high drama of the song, you get the sense that they're pleased to see it go.
Oh no, where did the groove go? Where did the groove go? Lights out to be felt. Where did the groove go? Where did the groove go?
This is Sparks taking a pop of their former genre of music. Back in 2002, Ibiza hosted a huge explosion in electronic dance music. It was massively commercial, and here Sparks are putting themselves above it. They're pulling the plug. However, what's interesting is that Lil Beethoven owes a lot to this music. They're using the same studio tools, techniques and structures as music made for the dance floor, but they're delivering it with gravitas, poise and sheer bravery. So where did the groove go? Well, I think that question actually has an answer. They left it in Germany.
I am the rhythm thief, auf Wiedersehen to the beat.
They don't just say goodbye to the beat, they also say auf Wiedersehen, and it's one of the few references to Germany around this song. First there's the title character, the German composer, and the song that follows includes this.
Carnegie Hall, Carnegie Hall. Practice on the Steinway, practice on the Steinway, practice on the Steinway, practice on the Steinway.
With a Steinway being a model of piano made by an American and German company. And if we wind back to the track that preceded Lil Beethoven, there's this.
Wunderbar! Wunderbar! Das ist wunderbar!
That is Wunderbar, and it's a song that was recorded for a compilation album dedicated to a famous German football commentator. And the song's comprised entirely of football commentary, all set to the classical stylings that we would hear for years to come in Sparks music. So that's 3 songs and 1 album title, all referencing Germany, and I think this is with intent, and I think they're doing it because they're referencing where they've just come from. They'd spent the last 10 years working in the German music industry. That's where they were selling the most records by far. It fitted the way Sparks had worked up until the year 2000. Every few years they'd changed not only genre, but also scene, and more importantly, territory. For example, they were an English glam rock band, then European disco, and then they were massive in the French Riviera, then the West Coast. They'd hop from place to place, starting afresh every time rather than building on existing audiences. And the last stop on that world tour was Germany, starting with 1994's gratuitous sax and senseless violins and running all the way up to the album Balls in the year 2000. So these references could be saying goodbye to that phase of their career. So saying Auf Wiedersehen to the beat is saying goodbye to the territory that they've just left. And that reminds me of when they did the same thing in 1976 on the song England.
I've just come back from England with an astounding scientific sort of news. There exist in England living creatures much the same as me and you.
That was a song that Sparks recorded on their return to America, having just come back from England. What they found there was it was fun, but it was just like everywhere else. And early on in Sparks' career, they aspired to be an English band. But clearly, they've been there, done that, and they're moving on somewhere new. So they're saying goodbye to England, just like 2002 Sparks are saying Auf Wiedersehen to the beat. In both cases, it's explaining the shift that Sparks are taking to become a new version of the band. These are songs that could only exist in that particular moment. And that too is something we see across their work.
So may we start. So may we start. It's time to start. High time to start. Collaborations don't work. They don't work, they don't work. Collaborations don't work. They don't work, they don't work. Collaborations don't work. They don't work, they don't work. I'm gonna do it all. Two hands, one mouth. That's all I need. That's all I need to satisfy you. Two hands, one mouth. That's all I need.
Each of those songs perfectly describes that moment in the Sparks story, as in, it wouldn't make any sense if you placed it onto a different album. And while it might seem like each of these songs are just funny jokes, I think there's a lot more going on here. What I'm setting out to prove on the Meta Sparks channel is that every Sparks song can be treated in this same way, as if they're saying something about the band in that moment. It's certainly true of all the songs I've discussed so far, and I've got an awful lot still to come with this. So how does that thinking apply to The Rhythm Thief? Well, it's definitely commenting on the moment because the rhythm has been stolen and it's the start of a sequence of songs with no beats. But it goes a lot deeper. And to show you what I mean, consider just how gleeful The Rhythm Thief sounds in this section of the song.
You'll never get it back. You'll never get it back. The rhythm thief is garbage and you'll never get it back. You'll never get it back. You'll never get it back. The rhythm thief is garbage and you'll never get it back. You'll never get it back. You'll never get it back. The rhythm thief is garbage and you'll never get it back. You'll never get it back. You'll never get it back. The rhythm thief is garbage. Lights out to beat the...
It's a real taunt of satisfaction. The Rhythm Thief has won, and that's a theme that we see throughout Lil Beethoven, winners and losers. And I'll go into that over subsequent episodes, but for now let's focus on the winning, because there's a lot of it. If we go back to Wunderbar, it's winning a game of football.
Oh la la, das ist nicht zu fassen! Das ist wunderbar!
Both Wunderbar and The Rhythm Thief have a real sense of winning. Here, there are shouts of bravo as a goal is scored, and that's picked up by another winner on track 2 of Lil Beethoven. There's a pianist who makes it to Carnegie Hall and gets a very similar response from his audience.
Bravo! Bravo!
Now let's add another song to the mix. Before Wunderbar was The Angels. That's the closing track of the album Bulls.
They feel the heat and the defeat because you look so fucking good.
In this song, the Angels have felt defeat. They're losers, just like one of the teams had to be beaten in the game of soccer on the song that follows, and also the people who had the rhythm stolen from them on the song that follows that. What are you seeing with the rhythm thief? This gloating of you'll never get it back. It's the tail end of a story that I've been telling on a series called A Meta Guide to Bulls. It segues perfectly into the creative rebirth we're seeing here on Lil Beethoven. Every song on Bulls can be tied into a narrative about Sparks picking a fight with their record label, executing a plot to break out of their deal and come out on top. They make an album that's designed to fail commercially, all while compromising none of their integrity. And they know that from the rubble of Bulls, they can build this astonishing new career. To see how all of these songs about winning fit into a much bigger picture, let's take a listen to the title track of Bulls. This is how the album opens.
We are provocation, we are instigation. You can sting or be stung, you can fling or be flung. It's all up to you. You can wait for saviors, beating out their favors. You can wait and wait. Hope may spring eternal, sounds a bit maternal. Do you wanna wait or crash the gates?
All of these lyrics point to a band who are ready for a fight. For their previous album, they'd been coerced into re-recording the greatest hits, and there are signs that point to Bulls also following some instruction from the label to aim for top 40 hits. And since Lil Beethoven, we can tell that appealing to radio listeners isn't necessarily what Sparks aim for. So they execute a plot to get out of their record deal, and the series of songs from The Angels through to I Married Myself all form a kind of victory parade for what Sparks have achieved. So much of the joy that you hear on Lil Beethoven is a reaction to what they've just won for themselves. Absolute creative freedom. It's also worth thinking about this on a more personal level, because in the Sparks Brothers documentary, we saw just how bad things were for the brothers just before they signed to Logic Records, following the failure of their movie project with Tim Burton.
Because of the lack of a record deal and any kind of record company financial support, you know, there comes a point where the well is getting a bit dry. Had they have been two guys that did drugs and all of that and blew their money in the past, they wouldn't have been able to pay their bills during that time. It's a testament to them in every aspect, you know, to how they had saved for that rainy day. So they were able to have, you know, almost 6 years of rainy days.
Given that Sparks was so far off the map in this period, you could look at the deal with Logic Records as a kind of deal with the devil, or maybe sleeping with the enemy. It was necessary to revive the band. And they did that magnificently with When Do I Get to Sing My Way, which is, of course, a song about wanting recognition that earned it for the band. So absolutely meta as hell. But continuing down the path of this poppy music was never their intention. So they were pushed in directions that they didn't want to go in.
If we had stayed strong, we probably wouldn't have done the Plagiarism album. Plagiarism was something that was recommended from outside forces.
But by the time we get to the end of Sparks' relationship with Logic Records, they're painted as the Angels. Now, I believe this is referencing the term angel investments. This term was coined in the 1900s on Broadway for rich theatre goers who would pay for productions and they'd get to hobnob with the stars. So it's a way of funding the arts. Therefore, Sparks are seeing the record label purely as a way of getting money, whereas most bands have the record label being a guiding force throughout their career. But by this point, in the year 2000, after 6 years on Logic Records, Sparks have gone from almost broke and culturally off the map to having everything they need to make Lil Beethoven.
Not being dependent on massive budgets and record companies became a really liberating thing, that now we could record on our own and then we just hand that off to a label and then take it or leave it.
So they no longer need the financial support of the record label because they've taken it for themselves. And with that, the angels disappear.
I see the angels disappear. I see the angels disappear. They feel confused. They feel bemused. They are a pale picture of you.
I'd say that The Rhythm Thief is undoubtedly one of the most important moments in Sparks' career. The sound you're hearing is unbridled creative freedom. The song soars to such great heights, it's worth listening to the instrumental version of it as well, because compositionally, there are few songs as good as this is showing what Ron Mael is capable of. The joy that you feel over much of Lil Beethoven is that joy of them finally being in a position where they can make whatever music they like. Their career is no longer dictated by chart positions. The confidence that you hear on the record is the unbridled creative freedom. And what I hope to show over coming episodes is just how much Lil Beethoven is commenting on creative freedom. It's asking questions about what creative freedom means to a band like Sparks. So The Rhythm Thief describes this perfect moment in Sparks' history where they're in complete control, they're throwing away everything of their past, and they're setting a new day zero. This is much more than just beating their record label. This was the foundation for the next couple of decades. Sparks fundamentally changed as a band from this point. Rather than hopping from genre to genre and from scene to scene, this is where they became their own scene. They didn't press a reset button every few years. They would always build on what came before, starting right here on The Rhythm Thief. Its DNA is heard in everything that follows, not least in the last song that Sparks put out.
Don't go away, don't go away, don't go away, don't go away, don't go away.
That was the story of how The Rhythm Thief stole control of Sparks' career back from the music industry. They say goodbye to Germany and settle in back home in the suburbs and set up their own music scene which featured only Sparks. Lil Beethoven is the perfect expression of creative freedom, and I hope that you join me in the coming episodes where I break down just how much Sparks have to say on this subject. But in the meantime, let's draw things to a close, and I'd like to say thank you very much to everybody who's commented and liked and subscribed, and a special thanks to those who bought me a coffee. It's really appreciated from the bottom of my heart. So I hope everyone's enjoyed it, and I'll catch you soon on Metasparks.